All right, let's start recording. So today we're going to be talking about tips and tricks. Okay, so today we're going to do tips and tricks. Hopefully you guys learn something new. So here are some of the tricks that I'm going to be showing. One of them is that how do you change elevation part from color elevation to black and white. One would be to attach wall to the underside of the curved stair. And how do you fake elevation tags as Windows tags? Quickly add metal ribs, freeze schedule header. Okay. And how do you create Helix? I know that some people asking, like, okay, how do you do it inside Revit? That's easy. So I'm going to show you how. So hopefully you guys can follow. Oh, really? Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. I'll speak in really close to the microphone, and hopefully that's not an issue for everybody. I'm also going to repeat my scalable family. I know that a lot of people is constantly asking me, how do you scale family? In reality, you can't, but there is another way you can actually do it. What is this Zoom? Reconnecting. Sorry, I think the internet's coming in and out. Oh, this is, yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to be doing scalable families as well. I'm going to do the last one, which is there's a limit in how big can you build Revit objects, distance. I'm going to show you what I did in this presentation. All right, let's see. My objective for this is at least you're learning something new today. Okay, let's get into the demonstration. So I'm going to be using Revit, the latest one, 2019. Hopefully we will install 2020 and 2021. In most cases, if you're building, let's say a Revit elevation, you want something change certain part of it to be black and white and then certain part to be color. There's a quick way you can actually do that inside Revit. So first, I'm just going to open up a quick sample project. Yes. Okay, let's share it. Do you see it now? Okay. Okay, so let's assume that you have this church as your building. And then the architect was asking you to, okay, I want to see part of this building to be black and white, while the other part is going to be in color. So let's assume that you want to change your object. Let's assume that this is a church. You want part of it to be in black and white. So the first thing you want to do is that you can create a region, okay? And what you're going to do in here is that you're just going to call this white region. White. Masking, make sure you turn it off. Here I would just say just use solid, make it white. As well as this one, solid, make it white. Okay. Next thing you're going to do here is you can just change it to the visible line. And let's say I'm going to do this part to be black and white. You notice that really quickly. And you can just say, okay, I want this to be black and white and the rest is color. So that's quickly. I know that some people want, yes. Internet stable connection. Okay. Oh, really? Okay. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can get a stable connection. This thing is, I think it's must do. All right. Can you guys hear me now? region. And once you create a white region, you can just basically go in there and just create part of your elevation to be black and white, and then part of it going to be color. And this is a very good way to kind of like isolate certain things without just having to combine two elevation together. So quick, yeah, it's very easy. I love this technique because it just basically just isolate part of it to be black and white, and the rest is just color.
So that's just a white filled region that you put on.
That's correct, and it's transparent as well. So yeah, this is a technique. Someone is asking me like, how do you do this? I'll just say, okay, this must be the easiest way to do it. So if you want to do that, this is how I would do it. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is assuming that you have a curve. Okay, let's say you have a stair. That's a curve. This will not work for spiral stair. It has to be like let's see, a stair. Has to be one of these. This one, probably in the future, I'll show you how to attach it because this is kind of like it has this corkscrew, but this one, it works pretty well. So all you need is just, okay, so let's say this is how much I want it to be. Oops, I should change my level. Sorry, that's my mistake. Here, I just want it to be level 2. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's assume you have this fancy stair and you want to add a wall to the underside. So here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to first add a wall. Okay, let's assume it's concrete. And what you're going to do is that you're just going to add to the underside. Okay, that looks good. Oop. Just want to pick the edge. Okay, there we go. So the stair is going to look like this. So what you want is that you want to attach this wall to the underside of that stair. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to use a roof. Okay. What you're going to do is that you just basically create the same form. Okay. And you can make it as thin as possible. It doesn't have to be a thick profile. So what I do is I just create like a thin profile. Just make it like super thin. Let's say 8. By doing this, then you can say, okay, for this modification, I'm just going to say to the underside of the. It's going to give you an error message. Okay. But what you're trying to do here is that you're just trying to form your stair according to your landing. But this one, I think I have to edit them. I'm going to hide this. Come on, okay. I'm just going to add this particular location with that. So let's say that's my starting point. So you're basically creating a profile to the underside of the stair. Now, once you have your wall, okay, maybe I should also do it to the edge of this. Now, what you have to do, be careful, because once I attach to the underside, it will give me an error message sometimes. You see that it doesn't roll. The reason being is that this guy right here has to be perfectly aligned. So what you're going to do is that you kind of have to align it exactly to that wall to make that particular this particular object work. So now when I attach it to the underside, okay, there we go. So what you have here is that you have a stairs that follows through the profile. I find that to be the most useful. You can use ceiling, but the problem with the ceiling is that it cannot form this sort of a shape. So you can only do it either a slope. For this one, if you really want to do like a curve, then I would just say just draw a roof. You can use the floor if you want to. I find roof to be the better option. Reason being is that if you use a floor in 2019, and if this thing is clashing with another floor, it will just give you an crazy error message constantly, and then you don't want that. So just use a roof. It will not give you this crazy notification. All right, so hopefully you learned something new about this. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is window elevation. So a lot of time what we do is that when you create an elevation for windows, okay, let's assume that you have this windows. You usually want to put in like a window tag. Okay, there's another way you can actually do it. So what I typically do, I built this elevation tags yesterday. Probably I should share it later on. So what this does, elevation. So let's assume that this is your elevation tag. And what happened is that I have a pointer that just points to, all four corners of the elevation. I'm just going to load something in here. So what you could do is that now your elevation, I'm just going to go view, go to elevation. Oh yeah, I have to create one elevation. Let's say this is window tag. And here, elevation 1, duplicate. This is a window tag. Yeah, this is one thing I don't like about Revit is that it has this hidden kind of a menu system within it. So here I'm just going to say window tag. Just leave it as it is. And you notice that, okay, this is what I want. It does this weird thing. So what you could do is that this will reference this particular elevation. And when you go into the elevation, hopefully it's in the right one. Okay, so this is where you can say, okay, I'm going to crop it down here. Crop it down here. Crop it down here and do your window like that. So in the sense, you could say this is a window like type 1, E1. And when you go into the family itself, let's say new. Okay, there's a sheet. Okay, there's no sheet in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag a T here. And let's see if I have, oh, yeah, nothing's loaded. Thanks to me, I didn't load anything in this particular template. So let me quickly just add a project. Okay. If you run into this problem where you have nothing loaded, first thing you do is that you just go to architectural template. And what you're going to do is that just do the transfer project standards. So I'm just going to go back here. Okay. And what you're going to do is that just transfer project standard from project 1, say OK. It'll tell you override. Sure, just override everything. So now once you have everything override, the next thing you want to do is that you want to put this onto the window. So okay, that's done. So here I could say this window, title only. Okay, let's assume that this is a particular window you want to call it. So let's call this A1. Okay, so the minute you do that, in your window, let's say you go to level 1. Oh, not this one, sorry. Where's my elevation? You notice that it's called A1. Okay, so in here, what you could do is that you could like do a tag, a dummy tag. Okay, what you could do here is that you could say elevation, reference to another view, give me a window, and you can say, okay, that's the one, that's the other. So in a sense, you're just basically treating your window elevation as a tag. Okay, so you already have this pretty much set up, and I would say that in the future, this is the way to go if you want to add a window elevations, and it actually has a reference to something. Okay, does that help you guys quite a bit? Because you could just go in there. All you have to do is just, okay, that's my tag, and I'm just going to say reference to that tag, and just tag it here and tag it there. So that's a trick you guys could use, because every time when you change the number, all of this thing will automatically update it. Okay. Quickly add rubrics. Okay, so in this particular one, this particular roof, you notice that I'm using hatch. So let's assume that you want to add a rib just to make this thing looks really nice in Revit rendering, let's say Enscape. So how will you do this very, very quickly? So let's say assume that you have an existing roof. The first thing you want to do is that you want to duplicate this, copy this, and paste it at the same place. The next thing you want to do is that change this to slope glazing. Okay. Then what you're going to do is that you're going to duplicate this and call this ribs. And the layout really depends on which one. It could be grid 1 or grid 2. So here, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to say add distance, fixed distance. And you could say this is going to be a foot. Okay. Next, you're going to do is that for the interiors, you can say that, okay, let's do a mullion here. Let's do this one. I'm just going to keep it the same. And when you hit OK, do I see it? Oh, actually I do. Notice that's right down there. Oh, bugger. Okay, now I know. So once you've done that, one thing you want to do is that for a panel system, you want to basically turn it to empty panel. Okay. And if you want to offset this particular, let's say, assume that this, you want to offset it. First thing you want to do is that you want to go into your curtain mullion. Okay, let's duplicate this. Call this offset. Next thing you want to do here is that this is where you change it. So I would just say, let's do a foot offset. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this to offset. So let's go offset, offset, and offset. Okay, so it's basically projecting away from that. So now what you're going to do is that, okay, the offset's not enough. So what you're going to do is that just change it to the thickness of the roof. What is the thickness? Oh, 1'6". Okay, so let's say 1'6". There we go. So you start to see that there's going to be ribs coming in. Yeah, you will run into this problem. Okay. Yeah, this particular one, the reason why is that once you have this offset, it basically takes into account for this particular object right down here. Any questions so far with this? Everybody's silent? Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We're
right.
learning your tricks.
Yeah. So if you want to do like a quick ribs, this is how you do it. You could do offsetting. The other option is that you can actually just, here, I'm just going to undo and see which one looks better. Yeah, for this particular roof, I did something really terrible, unfortunately. So it's sometimes the ribs may work and sometimes it may not work depending on how you model it. Okay. In this case, let's see. You could do offset as well. Let's see. I'm just going to go -1 inch. And then what you're going to do here is that you're going to offset this by a foot. So here you're just going to go equals plus 1'6". It's disappeared on me again. It's still there. Most likely I have to offset it more. Equals plus 1 foot. Okay, that works better. So what you're going to do is that you take the ribs plus the number, you added 2 foot. Okay, so there you go. So that's much closer. That's how you do the ribs really quickly. So let me do another one. So here, let's do the opposite side. So what you're going to do is that first you copy it, paste it same place. Okay. Next thing you got to do is that you just got to change to your ribs. And then what you're going to do is that you just going to add plus 2 feet. See if that works. Oh, it's there. Let's see, 1 more feet. Yeah, sometimes roof, oh, okay, that's too much. Sometimes roof has this tendency, if you mirror stuff, it flips the other way. You just have to be careful because I did a lot of flipping on this. And sometimes the offset could be very, very different. So you just have to be aware. It could be plus 2 feet or minus 2 feet. Yeah, this is the bad thing about Revit is that once you offset stuff, everything is reversed on the opposite side. Just keep in mind. So this is how you do your ribs. Okay, it's very simple. You just copy it, change it to that, and then there we go. It's going to be a little bit tough if you have this particular type of scenario where you have a roof. Let's copy this, and you switch it. Oh, you can. Okay, so let's say copy this and paste the same place, and let's change that to ribs. Okay, and let's say that one, I'm just going to say equal 1'6". See if that changes anything. Nope. Let's say 2 feet. 0'6". Let's say 7. There we go. Yeah, it's a very weird kind of a scenario. So that's how you do it, kind of like really, really quick if you want to add that ribs to that roof. Okay. So have you ever dealt with a schedule? Let's say I'm going to open up a project with a schedule. So let's assume that I'm just going to work on, yeah, this is a perfect one. It will lead me to a schedule. So if you ever work on a schedule, what ends up happening is that your schedule becomes so massive, right? Like it has a long list. And sometimes what ends up happening is that you don't know what headers belong to what. So I know that this was a question from one of our user here who was asking, oh, can you freeze the header? The short answer is no, you cannot. But I'll show you another way that you can actually just freeze the header. Okay, hopefully this is loaded so I can just show it to you.
Well, not easier just to create a texture with bumps.
You can, but what ends up happening is that if you go to Enscape, sometimes the bump does work, but it will not give you this ridges. Okay, the reason why is that this model itself, it's not baked into the texture. The texture map, when you actually zoom in closer, if you want to get super detail, it's not going to look good, right? It looks like a texture. So when you add ribs, it actually adds this three-dimensional reality. So when you zoom in closer, it looks like an actual ribs roof. Okay, I've seen both ways done. Texture maps, sometimes it's very finicky. You have to get like really high res texture, or you basically, if you want to build like really, really detailed model, then yeah, this is the way to go. A good question though. I mean, texture map does work. Okay, so let's assume that you have the schedule. Let's say I'm gonna open up the schedule. Unfortunately, the problem with the schedule is that when you scroll down, you notice that the header is gone. So this is how I would approach it. Well, first I'm just gonna close my project. So how do you prevent this from moving? So the one thing I would typically recommend user doing is that you go find a schedule. Let's say this is my schedule. I'm just going to duplicate it. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is that you're going to basically put it somewhere closer to this particular places. So you notice that you're aligning. And when you scroll down, you notice that the schedule, this top part is remaining. And then you can go down there and modify your schedule. So this is kind of like the quick trick that I usually like to use, is that you just duplicate your schedule, kind of align it to the underside of this header. Well, this thing is at the background, you're basically just moving this. Now, if you want to change, let's say, this location where you want to scroll the other way, what you're going to do is that first, scroll it this way, punch it out. Well, first, have to make sure that the header is on the top. Okay. And then this, you just align this. And then you just basically just follow through that. So that's kind of like the caveats. Hopefully in the future they would add this feature, but for now you're stuck with, just changing. Oop, is it matching? Oop, it's not matching yet. Okay, there we go. So just try to match it like that, and then you just go in there and just modify your things. If you have large screen, I'm using laptop, so it makes it very, very easy to do this, to know. If you're using like big screen and you have more real estate, for for laptop users, yeah, you're basically going to have a crunch. So this sort of a method does help to alleviate that problem. So you understand, okay, this is the type, this is the fire rating, and then you can just go in and just work on it. So any question with this?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, good, good. So hopefully you guys use this method. I mean, I've used it quite a bit to do scheduling. I know that it can be a pain in the butt if you have like thousands of rooms and you trying to align it and becomes such a pain, like to know what's what. So in this one, at least, it kind of helps you a little bit to kind of alleviate that. Okay, let's talk about the next topic. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys how to create a simple helix inside Revit. Okay, what I'm gonna use is just use a regular roof or floor. So you can actually use both, either or. For now, I'm just gonna use the architectural template. I'm going to close out of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a roof. Okay. First thing first is you can just create a simple shape. Let's say it's about 1 meter. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is don't define this. You can offset this. Let's assume that this is 500. Okay. Oh, that's too much. So let's say 100 is. Come on. Let's get rid of that. And make sure that you don't define any slope. Okay. The first thing you're going to do here is that you're just going to define a height. Okay, so let's say this one, I'm just going to make it 500. Okay, it's going to give you this error message. That's fine, just ignore it. Next you're going to do is that you're going to mirror this. And then you're going to mirror it again, but this time do not copy. Okay, it's going to look the same. Now you're going to go to elevation. So the first thing you're going to do is that you're just going to align this particular object to the top of that. So now what you have is that you have a helix, then you can just simply just copy it up. It's going to give you this weird message, ignore. There's a way you can actually turn it off in Revit. Okay. Now what you have is that you have a helix, and you can do join geometry if you wanted to. Say modify join geometry. So if you want to do like a corkscrew, kind of like a look at the design itself, you can actually use this method. I usually use it quite a bit. So what you have is that it's just a simple corkscrew. And then what you could do here is that if you really want to get into railings, okay, let's say I'm going to do a railing. This particular corner, from that particular corner, see, does it help? So here, what you can do is that let's pick a host. Yeah, railing placed outside of this may change adjustment. Yes, sometimes railing will work, sometimes railing will not work. So let me try it again. Oops. Let's go to level 1. It just depends on the position. I should do offsetting. Let's see, offset. Let's say 50. If it's in the center, does it want to work? All right, it does work. Okay, so you do the same thing. You mirror it, and then you just pick the host. Just go here. Again, you can just say mirror this. And then what you can do is say, okay, just pick my host, this one. And you can just copy this. Oh yeah, railing sometimes doesn't like to be copied. So what you're going to do is just copy it and paste it at the same location and pick a host. There you go. You do the same thing here. Copy this, paste in place, pick a host. So what do you have here is that you have this architectural marble. Okay, let's go into realistic. And what you have is that it's kind of like a corkscrew, and your railing is just following that. Okay, it's kind of a cool concept if you're doing like parking, kind of like going down that corkscrew. So this is kind of like your way of doing this sort of a marble. Any questions so far with this?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I come up with last night. I was like saying there must be a way to do Helix, right? And I kind of figure out like, okay, let's do this, and then I just say just do small parts and mirror it this way, and then what you do is that you end up having this corkscrew. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is how you built Scalable Family. I did this in the past. I just want to repeat it again. The reason why is that you sometimes need something to something to scale Revit, and Revit is just becoming such a pain. So the first thing you want to do is that out of all the families, the only families that can actually scale things would be your trees. So you kind of have to use planting as your the first template. Now, if you want to use it in existing, I'm just going to open up my existing Revit family that I've created, or actually I downloaded. So let's see, it's a good point. So if you find a good family, and then all you need to do is just you just want to scale it. This is how my approach, how I would do it. So here I have, let's see, thermostat, door. No, I don't want to use door. So you know what? I'm just going to download a family. So let's say, let's go Revit City. Okay. I don't recommend using Revit City for other content, but make sure you talk to myself just to look at it. So let's say I'm gonna scale a truck. Let's see what kind of truck do they have in here. Bobcat. Okay, let's download this Bobcat. So let's assume that you want to turn this Bobcat into like a little dinky toy. Okay, let's say you're doing like a more of a Lego kind of a scenario, or like for kids. Most often what happens is that Revit does not allow you to do that. So what ends up happening is that you basically are at the mercy of either export it out and rescale it. To me, it's pointless to do that because it's a waste of time. So rather than doing that, okay, so right now I'm just going to open this Bobcat. Okay, so that's a good Bobcat using 2018. Okay, a couple things you kind of have to keep in mind with this Bobcat. Make sure they're not shareable. Okay, the reason why is that if the object is shareable, it will break the scaling factor. Okay, it just will not work. So something to keep in mind. So the next thing you're going to do is that you're just going to load into this family template. Okay, all you have to do is just dump it right in the middle. Okay, you don't really need to do anything. Next thing you're going to put in is this little parameter. Okay, all you need to do here is click on this and add height. Okay. Often what I typically like to do with this height is that I like to put it as an instance parameter. I'll just lower it down to basically the size of the constraint is, okay, remove. So let's assume I'm going to give it a full number, 2.5 meter. Okay. I'll make it the same here because sometimes Revit is very, very picky. So here I'm just going to do that. Add that height. Okay, everything's swell. Next thing you're going to do is that you're going to open up another Revit family. Okay, just go new. The first Revit family I put in is just planting. The next one you're going to do is that you're just going to add another planting. And what you're going to do here is that you're just going to load this guy into this planting. So you're going to load it into family number 2. Okay. Again, I'm just going to apply the same methodology. And just say this is 2.5 meter. And what you're going to do is that this 2.5 meter, you're going to apply the same logic. And it's going to be my instance parameter. Now, this one, what you're going to do here is that you see that there's a height attached to the height. Okay, so that this particular height right now is basically controlling that. So now what you're going to do is that just load into your family, let's say project 2. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put that in here. Let's see if it works. So here I'm just going to copy. Let's say I'm going to go 1.5 meter. Ooh, yes. So here you could say 600 millimeter. There we go. So you get big, medium, and small. So I use this technique quite a bit. Unfortunately, the only thing you have to live with is this is going to be your planting family. Just keep in mind. Okay, so this is how you do it very easily, how to scale Revit objects. And yeah. All right. The next thing I also should mention, it's not in my list, is that, okay, so assuming that you want to build, you want to kind of create this curve, right? Let's see, I'm going to have a curve. Offset. Let's assume that this is a meter. Okay. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add like a brick paver. Brick paver. And okay, so here what you have is that you have a brick paver that looks like that. Okay. What if you want to make that brick paver kind of curve? So the easiest part is that all you have to do is just make this thing -1. Oh, actually, yeah. Sorry, I should make that 0 first. I should rotate this first. Okay, first thing first is I want to make this particular brick road to be aligning with that pattern first. Okay, so it looks like that. So if you want to do the brick road, all you have to do is just go, oh, there we go. Okay, so that's how I would say that's the quickest trick if you want to do like the brick paver that aligns through center. Okay, the nice thing about the hatch is that it actually matches that. Any questions so far with this? I mean, this is my quick trick how to build this very quickly. And the other thing I always get asked is that, what if you want to build, let's say, a louver, let's say a curtain wall louver really quick. So the first thing I would do, okay, if you really want to build it quickly, I'll show you how to build it. So the first, without any using any special families, all you have to do is first you make it a curtain wall. Okay, I will make this thing 2 meters. 2 meters. So the first thing I'm going to do in here is that I'm going to use the first would be the empty panel. Okay, always put in empty panel. So the vertical mullion, I'm going to use, sure, 50 by 150. Same thing, just use the same. Use the same. Horizontal, again, just keep it the same. The only thing that's different, it's going to be the interior. So the interior, I'm going to use something different. So here, I'm just going to use the 150, 50, 50. And the only thing that is going to be different is going to be this square. Okay. Now, here, what you're going to do is that for your horizontal, you're going to say maximum spacing, or you could use fixed distance. Fixed distance, what it does is that at the end, it's going to have this little gap. So what I like to do is that maximum spacing, let's make it 6, let's make it 4 inches. And in here, you notice that for this louver, you can actually replace it with something else. So if you want to like do this bladed louvers, what you can do is that you can create one. It's under mullion, curtain wall mullion. Could be rectangular. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this and call this angle. Here you can say I'm going to make 100. Just make this half an inch, and this is where you change the angle. So let's assume that that's going to be 30 degree. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is that you're going to quickly change this. from square to angle. And there we go. So you have a louver really quick. And what you can do now is that you can just quickly just change that any size you want. And if you want to add a mullion, what it does is that it automatically does that. So that's kind of like my quickest how to create a louver if you really want to start from scratch. Now, the nicest thing about this is that if you want to do trellis, I would say just use roof. No. Again, use the same method. You see there's a slope glazing. And what you're going to do here, I'm just going to say no angle. Just give it like this is defining slope so that you can angle it. So let's assume that this is 1 degree. And here, again, you can just do that curtain panel, just say empty. And grid 1, let's assume that it's a maximum spacing, 4 inches. Layout 2, just leave it alone. So here, what I'm going to do is that this is going to be my angle, 150. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about curtain walls, that I wish both the roof and the wall itself would have the same, because they're just curtain panels. But for this particular case, you can't really do that. So here, there we go. Okay, pretty simple, pretty easy, and you can just create your own height. Well, actually, I made a mistake. Okay, instead of making this define slope, I'll make this define slope. It'll give you an error message. Just delete it. It will just repeat itself. Okay, there we go. Any questions so far? Okay, good. Okay, the other thing is that I usually ask, okay, let's say assuming that you want to build like a radial kind of scenario using curtain glazing. Okay, let's say I'm going to do a slope glazing. Here what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to offset this.
Oh my.
Okay. Oh, I should just duplicate this, right? In here, I'm just going to say no empty panel, just say none. And the only thing I'm going to change here is just change this back to this 150. Delete. And let's see, this one, let's see, 2 feet. Nope, no, let's say make it 4 feet. So let's assume that you're doing a trellis and it's going to be curved. Like, how would you build this? So what I'm doing right now is that I'm just creating panel. Okay, let's assume that this is kind of like you want to make it angle. So how would you approach this? So first I'm going to go glazing. Really depends on which direction you're going. So I always align this. Let's assume that you're aligning it to this way. First thing you want to do is you might have to create 2 conditions. One is going one way and the other one going the other way. So here I'm just going to rename this from grid 1. Okay, that's what I want. And then this one I'm going to call it grid 2. And here I'm just going to say none. And here I'm just going to say maximum spacing 4 feet. Okay, grid line. Now, what ended up happening is that I just want this to basically slope to one direction. So the next thing you're going to do is that you're going to add in a slope here. So here I'm just going to say define a slope, give it like 4 degree. Yeah, you'll notice that you're going to get this sort of the issue with this. So the next thing you want to do is that you want to add in a bunch of, actually, let's do this, not maximum spacing. Let's say fixed number. That's what I want. Okay. Oh, actually, let's go grid 1. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you notice that why grid 1, why you want grid 1 and grid 2, because sometimes it just you don't know which direction it's going. So it's kind of like a trial and error. Okay, here I'm just going to put split number. You notice that it's actually doing it radial, and now you can say, okay, I want this to be 8. Okay, just to make it so that it is actually radial. Okay? So that's sort of basically the quick trick of how I built Revit really quickly. This is just only using the regular stuff, nothing fancy. So last part I'm going to talk about is Revit and the limitation. Okay, Revit has a limit. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a file which I built. Let's see, space frontier. So I just want to test Revit how big you can build. So what ended up happening is that I basically built a globe. Okay, Revit has a limit. Okay, I just build a globe and say radius is this much. So if you hit 10,000 meters, it says that you cannot build more than that. So this is your maximum limit. Now, the biggest issue gripe I have with this particular object is that if you want to cut something in the middle of that object, let's assume that there is a hole inside your ozone layer. Oops, where am I? Let's see. You notice that right now, if I want to cut this particular object with that, it just will not cut. So let's say if I want to see that right now, Revit just unjoins stuff. So let's assume that I want to cut in the middle of this. So if I want to cut this with that, you notice that Revit just will not work. So the larger the objects, your void becomes useless. So there's no way you can do it except you kind of have to do this. You have to edit the revolve. You kind of have to add in your hole. Okay, this is how I would approach it. Okay, you kind of have to do it to a profile. Okay. The unfortunate thing is that this is kind of like, okay, you putting a button to the big apple. So that's the limitation if you want to build. So what I have to do is I have to scale down the model. So in this particular object, I'm just going to exit out of here. If you want to make it like a hole cut in, you kind of have to scale down your object. So what I did here is that I did a particular Death Star. Okay, this is a Death Star model inside Revit. So what I did here is that I just basically you can build as small as you can. There's a limit to how big you can build this. So far, I found a sweet spot. So this is how I end up building this. So when you go inside here, this size I think it was how many meters? I don't remember how many meters, but it was just crazy numbers. Like you can go big, you can go small. But this one I think I built it. How big is it? I don't remember how big did I build this. Radial. So what is the size? Okay, so I built it 750 meters. Unfortunately, Death Star is bigger than that, but this is the limitation Revit. Hopefully in the future, they will give us unlimited, so you can actually build Revit size Death Star 1-to-1. This one is kind of like it's scaled down. Same as Earth. Unfortunately, that's the only limitation you can build. If you truly want to see like whether or not this is viable in the future, what I did here is that you see there's a spacecraft, so I built it in just to see the background. And I actually use Enscape just to showcase that in space, you can actually build a space, everything. Oh, someone's using it. Okay, so that's no good. So I did an export, so you guys could just enjoy this. Let's see, content, display, space frontier. Let's go with the Earth. Yeah, this is just, I'm just testing it just to push Revit and see what you can do. So this is sort of like a test run. In the future, hopefully you can build a space station in the moon. This installing problem. Oh gosh. Okay, that's so good. Okay, let's start it. I'm just going to just not use license. I'm just going to say continue restricted mode. Yeah, hopefully in the future, Revit is able to build stuff in space, because I'm just trial run this, and sometimes you have to build Death Star as a planet. Yes, yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Because we built massive infrastructure, and they can't even give us a simple tool to build this. Yeah. Yeah, this is a fun little project, just building it. Now, if you want to get high-res textures, there is a website by an amateur. They load up like 8K texture maps. All right. So if I go close up, this is what it looks like. Now, if you want to change it to some other, I usually use the skybox general settings. Yesterday I did like how I'll talk about how you change your skyboxes. If you want to know how to change it, you can always go into atmosphere. There is one called the skyboxes. There you go, skybox. And what you do is load your own space VR. So what I did here is that I loaded in a picture, and let's see how that looks. Oh yes, space, infinite space. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have a license to this, or else you won't see the whole thing. So yeah, so that's how you see Earth. It's pretty I just built it as kind of like, okay, what can Revit build? So this is how you build Revit inside yeah, space. It's pretty impressive though. Once you have a light up and go like light and night. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I can change day or night in this one. That's the unfortunate thing. If you change, like, if there's a way to change it, let's say I have the full license, you can actually change day and night. You can actually see the contrast and see the moon and everything. But you know, it is what it is. So there's nothing much you can do about this. Any questions so far? Yeah. All right. Hopefully that covers that. I'm gonna put this recording up on YouTube so that you guys can just watch it to your heart's content. All right. That concludes. No problem. No problem. So hopefully this you learned something new today, right? Hopefully in the future Revit can build spaceships. I mean, I'm wishing for that day you can build that stuff on space, because you should not restrict it to just a flat land, but you know, space, water, underwater. Now the funny thing is that Revit doesn't have a tunnel, especially for the site model, right? Sometimes we have to build tunnel. We just have to dig a ground and just put a cover on top. So I wish there's a way you can actually tunnel it. Yes. Yeah. Well, hopefully to give us a tool in the future to build that stuff. I mean, I'm excited, and hopefully Autodesk could hear from us. All right. Thank you.